What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to CanesCast. 9-0 is a great feeling. Canes are still rolling after what amounted to be a little bit of a scare in the beginning against Duke, and admittedly had me on the on the fence a little bit with my feelings about that game, just facing our old head coach and all the stuff that could go wrong. But we got it done. 9-0. I'm Phil here with Garrett. We're ready to break everything down and look ahead at a game which is going to live in as a potential what should be revenge for a game that'll live in infamy in Miami history. But we'll get to that. But first, Garrett, Duke, we had time to dissect this and really take this in. What are your thoughts on this Duke game?
Well, first and foremost, you got to give it to the guy in my background picture this week. Is Xavier Restrepo is now the all-time receptions and yardage leader, and what a play that he broke both records on. Right, it was a slant. Really, he breaks two tackles and he's off to the races for a 60-plus yard touchdown. That's just so embodying of his career. A tough guy. He's been the go-to guy the last 2 years for sure. You really felt pretty good if you watched, Cam Ward film from last year. He had a receiver at Washington State, much like a Restrepo, smaller, stockier type slot receiver. So you felt good that, like I did, I would assume lots of you did, that this was going to be a great connection, and it has been. He's still in one of the receiving leaders. He's in the top 20 in yardage. I think he's got 9 touchdowns now. So I mean, he's having a phenomenal season, but not just that, he's had a phenomenal career. So it was kind of cool to see him go to the guy that brought him here. Was the coach on the other sideline against us. So it was kind of cool that moment maybe got to play out, and most of all, we enjoyed it because we were victorious in the weekend's game. And you got to hand it to the Duke Blue Devils. They gave us an incredibly, tough game.
Yeah.
Their quarterback played well. He did have some turnovers, but you suspected that Manny Diaz was not going to come weak with it. He wanted to come down here and prove a point, put on a show, and I think we just happened to have too strong of a guy leading our team. He would not be denied. Had a phenomenal game. So yeah, it was an awesome game. It did get a little hairy there in the middle. So, fortunately for me, I was trying to coach my son's basketball team while this game was going on. So I wasn't able to stress out as it was going on. The game ended, and I did get to watch the fourth quarter when it was in a much better look for Miami from that regard. So great weekend. Cam really definitely got his Heisman stats rolling again. You feel good. He's, can continue this for the next 3 games, possibly the 4th game in the ACC championship game, and could certainly bring in home some pretty important hardware that we haven't had in a long, long time.
Yeah. I mean, he's rewriting history books in Miami, just like X is. And, it's been a phenomenal season all the way around. You mentioned the full circle moment with Diaz being there. I think that's it, maybe sucks on some level for Diaz, but it's also cool because he's a big reason why X is there. It's cool that X stayed and, continued on with Miami and has become the guy. I mean, he's a couple touchdowns short of the all-time record too. So he'll hold everything you would imagine by the end of the season. Or, the big receiving records like that. He's also won his first ACC receiver of the week, which was long overdue, I think. I know we've heard that talked about in other podcasts too, but definitely long overdue. And he is 3 receptions shy right now too of the leading every major category for ACC receivers. That Trevor Pena from Syracuse is 3 receptions ahead of him. Otherwise, Restrepo leads in yards and at 856, and he leads in touchdowns with 9. So he's having a great season. And, just like Cam Ward, he's improving his draft stock. I don't know what ends, I think Restrepo is still going to be a second, third round guy. Hopefully, he'll go that early. Because he's going to make an NFL team super happy one day too. I think. I mean, like he's just Mr. Reliable, catches everything, and a huge part of our offense. We're going to be sad to see him when he's, see him go, but obviously happy to see where he's successful somewhere else. Hopefully, that continues to be in Miami. Selfishly, I want all the great Canes players to stay in Miami, obviously. But yeah, that Duke game was across the board just it was nerve wracking because it just felt like in years past that was the kind of game that Miami would lose. Just whenever we're playing a former Miami guy, right? We always get bit. And when Duke kind of bounced back, the game was it was indicative to me of again Miami playing with their food a little bit, and I don't mean that as disrespecting, but Miami we ended up covering the spread, cover the spread. We scored more than our nation leading scoring average already, so it ended up being fine. But when you got a shot to go up 21-0 or 17-0 on that drive, when Cam was not on the same page, I believe, with Isaiah Horton on the third down on that curl route, didn't get the completion, stalled the drive. We punt. They almost fumbled the punt. They do fumble the punt, they get it back, and they come right down the field. And it just felt like such a momentum swing. Duke all of a sudden just had momentum after our defense was playing really well. It just felt like symbolic of this team kind of over the past couple of weeks at not playing complete football at all times, because you see the night and day. Everybody knocks our defense, but then you can see how good our defense can play when we held them to 50 yards or whatever it was in the fourth quarter. It was a good fourth quarter, and complementary football with this team is huge. Ultimately, our offense is our best defense because it puts so much pressure on the other offenses to run. We've seen it all season, up tempo, fourth down plays, fakes, trick plays, all these things, because they're afraid to give the ball back without getting points, because you got to match Miami's offense. So they play with this kind of trepidation and fear. When you do that, you put the ball in harm's way sometimes. Our defense makes plays on it, and then that helps them find their momentum. Not to mention playing with a lead allows our pass rushers to get going, which we haven't seen that much lately, but we know we have the capability to do. So that part's exciting. I think our defense is hopefully coming into form. Richard being gone for the season now with what's presumed to be a torn ACL sucks. But Damari Brown is close. So hopefully, he's not going to play against Georgia Tech, but then we have our bye. Hopefully he'll be back after that, and that'll strengthen our secondary up there again. I don't know who's going to step up in his place. Patterson. I don't know who. We'll see. We'll see what that ends up being. But ultimately, it's going to be the defensive line that makes or breaks it for our defense. But it was a great game, or in my opinion, it was a great game across the board. When it was over, like you said, Cam had his moments. He had his stats. He made some crazy great throws. He had the one throw that again we want back. No idea why he throws back across the middle like that to throw the pick. It was the same thing he did against Cal. But there's so much good in a game like this. In that moment, I don't really care, I guess, looking back, because hopefully, that's more learning. He doesn't make that mistake again. That would be great. But yeah, it was a test. Duke's a solid team. Duke should have been ranked. Duke should have beat SMU, forcing 6 turnovers and dominating that game in a lot of ways. Duke should have been ranked. And if Duke's ranked because they beat SMU, then we're playing a ranked team and everything is better as far as how people are viewing it, right? It would have been a better win for us, and it would have been, but Duke's a good team and we took care of business. It's just what we've been doing.
And you got to say Louisville is 24 as of this week. So
Louisville is ranked.
We didn't have a ranked win when we played them, but they are ranked now. So, that is a side note.
No, it is for sure. Everybody says we haven't beaten a top 25 team. These teams were ranked and they are ranked. So we've beaten teams that were ranked and are ranked. So that's a great thing. And just keep winning. It takes care of itself. Again, a lot to like. The offense gave up a few more yards than I would have liked, obviously, against Duke's offense. But it just speaks to me to the ability for this team to kind of, again, play with their food. That whole transition reminded me, and I texted you, it was just like Virginia Tech. We were up, could have been up 21-0. That game would have never been as close as they ended up being at the end. That Markel Bell penalty should not have been a penalty. What happens? Takes a touchdown off the board. We throw the pick. VTech scores. They seize momentum. And all of a sudden, we end up in a game that's back and forth, which really shouldn't have been that way. And we've seen that a couple. I can even say Cal. Miami comes down, they score first, and then something happens, and it just feels like all of a sudden there's discombobulation, and the defense can't do anything but give up big chunk plays. And then magically, they're able to get it together. So I'll give our defense this. When it's mattered, they stand up and make plays and shut stuff down. So, I like that, but, Miami needs to come out this week. We'll get to this in a second. I got a few other things we want to bring up with Georgia Tech and just come out and from start to finish play their game, because we want to see complete football. We don't want to see this moments of stress, because there doesn't need to be. Miami's better. Doesn't mean you're going to win. The better team doesn't always win. But the whole seemingly taking your foot off the gas, none of us are a huge fan of, and we know that we're better than that, but we're not complaining. number 4 in the country, and more importantly, college football release or playoff poll release, the first one, number 4 in their eyes, but also number 3, more importantly, in the rankings. Pretty cool. I think the way this looks now, especially with Clemson taking that loss, it is set up right now for an SMU Miami ACC championship game. Who knows if that'll happen? SMU and Miami could both drop a game, could allow Clemson to come back in, or Pitt. Crazy stuff happens. You get a VTech, a 2-loss team. Who knows? Somebody sneaks back in. Um, but it goes to show that Miami really controls their own destiny across the board. Because if we went out in the regular season, I would say we're virtually guaranteed a spot, even if we were to lose in the ACC championship game, just because of where we are now. The first rankings are important because this is kind of how they view you. This is where you're kind of the basis of this. And there's 3 more games. If Miami goes in with 1 loss or no losses, as long if they have 1 loss and they play a competitive ACC championship game, I think they're in. If they have no losses and an ACC championship loss, competitive, I guarantee they're in. If they win the ACC, obviously they're in. So I guess on that, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that looking at the bracket as it stands now, is Miami not getting in the ACC's only shot to get 2 teams represented?
Again, maybe I misunderstood your question. I think again the rankings are kind of at this stage, just like the past, the four team playoffs. They're for writers and people like you and I to talk about. In this case, Miami controls its ticket in. Yes, I think they still get in if they get to the ACC championship and lose that. So in that case, there would be 2 ACC teams. I do see a little bit of the bias, being a bugaboo. So don't let that happen, right? All you got to do is just take care of every game that is in front of
Don't put it
you.
in
And we
someone
have,
else's.
yeah, again, I still think it's ridiculous that the SEC has so many teams ranked in the top 25. So again, don't give that ability up. Don't allow writers and computers or whoever the ability to keep you out when you've had a fantastic season. You have a great ability to do some damage in this playoff scenario. Because again, offensively, we can run and score with anybody. Defensively, depending on the game, we have good games, bad games. I think again, like you said, they can make some plays here and there to swing just a little bit or hold up just a little bit to let our offense come from behind. So that all sets up to me like a dangerous team. I feel as good about this team as I did when we were, making a run in the final 4, up to the final 4 in the basketball side a couple years ago, right? Because again, that team could just shoot. They just had a ton of athletes, and you felt like we had ability because having gone from an Elite Eight the year before, right, and then you had a Final Four run that next year. So I'm not saying
The
we
team had
were
experience.
great last. We weren't great last year as far as the football team is concerned, but you feel good about the momentum and the season that we're having. I think it was huge to have Clemson go down. Pitt got wiped off the floor, wiped off the face of the earth by SMU. So I told you a few weeks ago, I don't believe we put it on the show. The teams I thought were going to be in the ACC championship game outside of Miami was going to be somebody from, an unknown or a not talked about team. I don't think anyone expected SMU to be this formidable in their first season in the ACC. Credit to Rhett Lashley, a guy that was our offensive coordinator, a guy I've, certainly got some respect for. A couple of our ex-players that have gone on and done pretty well at SMU. So I find that to be the most interesting. That's certainly what I would like to see in as far as the ticket into the college playoffs. I think maybe SMU has an outside chance if they get up there. They have 2 losses and one of them's in the ACC championship game. I still think they deserve it. I doubt a third team gets in from the ACC for sure. And again, I think these rankings are pretty ridiculous anyway. You have Ohio State; they're not going to be 2 in the college football playoffs. They're technically going to have to go play an entry game into the top 4, right? Because you can only have one Big Ten team in that bye week situation. So the rankings are for fun, more for anything than I understand.
Well,
Yeah, you
that's
want to
their
be at the
rankings, not
top.
their seedings.
And that's what I'm saying. It's rankings, AP rankings, all that stuff is kind of minuscule. Power conferences have the ability to get in. I think honestly the more fun thing is what of the lower level conferences is the team that gets in. Is it the Boise State? Is it Army? Or I think Notre Dame should count for that. I know Notre Dame has a game against our bitter rival, so there is still
They're
plenty of
also a
football to be
bitter
played.
rival though too. So
Yeah, I think there's plenty of football to be played that still is going to shake a few things up. So I'm not really too interested in getting too wild out about it right now.
yeah, I think the reason it's important to me is because I think the first playoff ranking and the seating like that, I've heard it said, and it holds true because this is how it's initially viewed, right? So every time you go in to these rankings, these guys aren't going to forget what their previous ranking was or what they were. They had this at Miami at 3, at Ohio, at Oregon at 1, and Georgia at 2, and they're not going to forget how these where they ranked these guys. They're going to base that going in. And right now, I think that they view Miami as the best team in the ACC. Obviously, they are the best team in the ACC. They're in the best spot in the ACC, and that's how they're undefeated right now. But that
I,
is
I
what
I just don't think it matters whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. Take care of the conference,
not
win the conference, get
necessarily,
in.
but
I
it
don't think
bodes
you
well for
should
the
run.
chances down the road. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If you
but
do
but
lose,
you're gonna play tough teams in the playoffs. Like you don't want to run from any team. Any team you're gonna face is gonna be talented, whether it's
100%.
a 12 team that gets and upsets a higher seed. You know what I mean? So at that stage, you're playing good football teams. You're never. I don't think there's a great deal of difference between whether 1 or 4 setting up. And again, I understand. Yes, the premise of these rankings will only essentially if you keep winning you're going to move up a spot, but again I don't think ACC being 1, 2, 3, or 4 is really that big of deal in the grand scheme of things personally.
I just it's interesting because I just want to see how they view it for who gets in. Right now, obviously, it gives us the best shot. So continue to win, continue to make things happen. I do want to say if the ACC only get one team in, or if Clemson wins out and SMU drops a game, and then we still play SMU in the championship, and then we beat. I wouldn't be shocked to see Clemson get in just on name recognition as that second team. I think if the ACC only got one team, it would just be more spit in the face of the ACC. When again, you see these two lost teams like Bama and stuff like that that are ranked and they're viewed in the top 15 and everything, and it just is like there's no such thing as a bad loss in the SEC, and there's bad teams in the SEC, but there's no such thing. You lose in the SEC, it's a good loss to a good team. You lose in the ACC, and it's a bad loss to a bad team. It's just it's crazy. I mean, was Vanderbilt have they been barn burners? They've been good this year, but they beat Bama, and it's totally fine, right? That's just it is what it is. But it'd be nice to see the ACC get
I
more
think I think the Big Ten's kind of unique. Like they have what 4 teams in the top 25, so technically we have more
more
than them,
5, yeah.
but they're all in the top 10, right? So sure maybe I think it's going to be a little bit of a crap system if ACC ends up only getting one in. I think again the best case scenario for them to get more than one team outside of us is probably for us to go to the ACC championship because undefeated team, stumble at that point because I doubt they would drop us all the way out on an ACC championship loss. So obviously you'd get the
No,
potential champion there as a bye week, and then we'd have to play in. And again, I don't think even if that happens, I still like our chances. I'd love to see us play a home game at Miami, somehow go through the Orange Bowl, which again is at home in Miami. I think that's a hell of a scenario. Technically, Miami would have potentially their first 2 playoff games. Could very well likely, possibly go through the Orange Bowl at a home stadium. So, you know, I think again we have the talent. That's the sad part. It's crazy to think that if we lose a game from here in the next 3 games, that I'm going to be devilishly disappointed. Don't get me wrong, because I don't think we should lose one. There's just more talent. The offense showing the ability that it has, the defense having the ability to step up. But again, it's been an amazing season. Very likely we're going to have double-digit wins for the second time in 20 years. So if they absolutely crap the bed and lose the last 3 games, which I doubt that happens, then I obviously would be pretty shitty on the season at that stage because yeah, we play in a bowl game, but letting it all slip through our fingers at the last. I don't see that happening. I just see this as a
Yeah,
tough team.
don't put that
We have
out there.
a tough leader. Again, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think this is the type of team built to be formidable at the end of the season. Even if we lose a game, we're going to still be rough and tough. Where nobody really wants to see us as a team. I honestly think anybody that sees Miami on the schedule from here on out is going to be a little bit intimidated.
Can you match us punch for punch? That's the thing. That's the thing. We've seen this team score 50 plus points numerous times, and it's we might give up 40, but can you score the 50 something that it's going to take to beat us, right? I mean, that's going to be the big question. And Miami has shown that now, though, it's not going to be perfect every week. So if you're telling me that there's a loss somewhere, one loss somewhere is going to happen in Miami's season, and that's what potentially could keep them from winning the championship, then have the loss now. Have the loss in the ACC championship game, have the loss somewhere other than the national championship. It would be great if you continued to roll and win the whole thing. That would be absolutely epic, and that's what we're hoping for, and that's what the goal is. But again, if a loss has to happen, then I hope it happens the next couple of weeks, not this week, because if it's a revenge
Well, and
game.
like we've touched on that. That's what happened in the basketball season that year. We lost, the ACC championship game, but we had a huge winning streak up until that point. So it was like kind of, get that loss out of the way, get
Well,
redialed in. And again,
we lost to
we had
Duke
a,
in the tourney, and then that was when
but
O'Meara got hurt, and then yeah, we
that's what I'm
turned
saying.
around.
So as much as I want to win the ACC championship, because again, we have not put that feather in our cap yet. I can accept that loss comes at that stage, and we still have a chance to get in the playoffs because I like our chances no matter what getting in, and we're a dangerous team. I don't care if it's we have to play 3 games, 4 games, or we get a bye. I still like our chances as a team that would have every bit of the opportunity to win a national championship.
Having less games is the goal, just because of the attrition, letting guys get healthy, and not having to deal with that. But you're right,
But
having to play that
you see
first
that in
game
the
of the
NFL
year,
all the time.
rest versus rust.
Not saying it's not somewhat nice to have guys get their rings, but a lot of times the NFL playoffs play out because those teams play that first game, and it's like they're in the regular season mode. They're crisp. And again, we have a second bye week coming up after this game. I still think that's kind of a question mark. Are we going to be able to come out that second bye week and then still have our team crisp, ready to go, fresh?
I
You
think
like
it's
the
at a good
rest,
time.
sure. I
I think
think
it's
it,
at a good
but
time.
again, I'd love to see Murray Cristobal have take care of that monkey off his back officially. The one time we got off a bye week and we won this year. But again, I still think that's a question I have in my mind. So having 2 of them now to have to get back up for, I understand, having a Damari Brown that could potentially come back after that. That's great. He definitely needs to be back in the fold because he played a great game against Florida. It's been
For
shitty not having him all this year,
Yeah, for
especially
the
with
limited amount.
Richard making a great play, and then unfortunately ending his season. That was real tough to see for the guy. So yeah, I think we need that. But again, too many bye weeks at the end of the season. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. I like to have that ball rolling. I'm not saying I don't want a bye week. I'm just saying I think those play in teams that are going to have to play that first bracket, I they're going to be tough. A team coming off a game, having just won a tough game, coming in even on a bye week, I think it's going to be not my favorite thing, but certainly it means you had a great season to get there.
Well, at least we have that bye week now, though. So if we win this game against Georgia Tech, you have it, and then we come off of it against Wake Forest, and you can kind of get your feet wet, right? You can get back in the swing of things and kind of get the ball rolling again. Obviously, if we win the ACC championship and then have another bye you got to deal with, but that'll be that extra bit to get guys
So
healthy then. So
going into the Georgia Tech game, I mean
yep,
that's the biggest talking point is we're coming against a team that really derailed our season last year.
yep.
I think we should be motivated from that standpoint alone. I think all the other things that are kind of great Heisman campaigns, the running game starting to kind of dial in and be formidable. Defensively, I think we should have an ability to get this team, whether it's Haynes King or not. I know he's, coming into this week, he kind of questioning whether he's ready, healthy. So I want to play their best squad in a sense. I want to beat them handily with no excuses, right? This is a game that should be out for revenge. So that's really as simple as I can make it. I know the running back is real tough. Haynes, his last name, right?
But
Everybody on
I
that
think
team's
he's
name is
out too.
Haynes.
He might be out too, from
Yeah,
what I
okay.
understand. So
Sorry, I honestly haven't seen a lot of Georgia Tech this year.
no, but
So
I'm saying both
I
he
do
and Haynes
think,
King are hurt.
yeah, I understand what you were saying. I'm just saying I have not watched and followed that team. I just remember there's Haynes King, and then there's his last name was Haynes, the running back. So
Yeah.
I think this is a game we should win. I'll probably even say if my score prediction is, I think we can put 42 on them again. I think this is a game we should keep somebody down, but apparently we have a tough time stopping teams for an entirety of the game. So I'll say 42-28 is my score prediction.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's revenge. The thing is, the thing that sucks the most is I don't think we're going to be. I've been trying to stay away from a lot of this because I don't want to see them talk about last year with the Neil. I've already heard it brought up multiple times. I think during this game, there should be an over under on how often we're going to see that play and how often it's going to be brought up. But yeah, the Miami needs to come in pissed, ready to play. Revenge for what was a bad call on, Don Chaney was down. He was down. And it wasn't a fumble, but then again, no excuse for going for it to begin with, and no excuse for giving up the touchdown on the following play, who, funny enough, came against Cam Kitchens, who just had the season high interception return in the NFL for the Rams, 103-yard pick six, followed by another interception. So great for Pro Canes, but then that lives in infamy. So let's just hope that his mistake is avenged and Miami takes care of business. I think seeing what we did against Duke, against a good defense, and seeing what we did against Louisville, at Louisville, who, as far as the points put up, just went into Death Valley and punked the Clemson Tigers. I'm okay with saying that higher score. It's kind of pivoted ever since that Gators game. I was fairly okay on my prediction there, and some like Ball State and stuff like that. But I would say that other games when I've said they've been bigger spreads would have not been. Georgia Tech is I just expect more trick plays, especially if those guys aren't playing. They'll get theirs if they are. I just am desperate and trying to speak this into existence for the defense to stand up and hold the team down. Hopefully that happens. So I'll say, yeah, 45-21. Miami takes care of business and dominates this game and stays around our scoring average, which is, I haven't looked, but it's probably like 49 right now. It was
Yep.
47 before the Duke game.
Yeah,
So
48 and change or something, I believe.
yeah, so it's just take care of business, Miami. Keep winning, going to the bye week, and we'll see. Hopefully there's some chaos in front of us. Georgia and Oregon, maybe these guys lose games, and before you know it, we can continue to move up. The more I understand, I just want to say one more thing. We talk about the rankings. I know how really in the grand scheme of things are not important because if you win your conference, you're in regardless with this new system. In the bye week, but it's more a point of pride. I would love to see Miami get to number one. I would love to see Miami be in that position because let's be real here. Last time the highest we've been ranked recently was 2017. It was that season. We know how it ended. We never got to number one. It's been a minute since we've been
I
number
think we got
one.
to I think we got
We
to
were
two
two.
after the Notre Dame game. Yeah.
We did. We were at two, and we were two for a few weeks, but it was just, and we were in that playoff ranking. They had us in there, us at two, and Clemson at four, and we were all excited. I'll never forget that stuff. And it's just more of a personal thing for us to continue to climb and be in that because we know how this works. Next year, Cam's going to leave. Miami could end up with another quarterback from the transfer portal, or Emory Williams takes that step. A true freshman takes that step. Who knows what's going to happen? But we're not going to open the season as number one. We'll open in the top 25, probably top 15, depending on what happens at the end of this season. But with losing
Also,
Ward and Restrepo, I'd like to see it
I,
just for us, for fans.
I'm going to say something because this is something I've thought of. I know the narrative every time because even in 2017, it became a talking point again. Miami is not back. Even this year, if we win a national championship, what back means is like being consistently in the top five, in the top 10 every week. This is a team that's got to be, a dangerous team
Yep.
all the time. Getting a one season or a one run under our belt again is not Miami being back. Miami was dominant for decades at a time, right? Alabama, you've seen that. Georgia, Clemson have had those runs. That's when Miami is back. I don't want to hear, I know it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid, but I am not saying Miami is not back until we are in the playoff contention year in and year out again. And I think that could certainly, it's possible. It's very possible. We're in a great area of the country. The gloves are off. We don't have to worry about this crappy sanction bullshit anymore. That's what really is so inspiring. Makes me so excited. Why I like doing these shows is being in this new age where it's we're all on the same playing field again. Before the old system was shit. We had a good run, and whether we were always doing things the right way 100% time, it doesn't matter. But that's what I loved. And again, to get back Miami back, it's not just one season. Even if again there's a national championship put in the case this year, that's not being back. Being back is having multiple seasons back to back. 10-win season should be the norm rather than the obscurity every once in a while. That's not being back. So
No, that's the
as
expectation.
excited as I am, that's where we are back
The
officially.
expectation is to win double-digit games every year. Miami's a program that's the expectation. That's where they want to be. Where a bad season is Miami only won 8 games this year somehow. Something happened, injuries, and it was an 8-win season, a 9-win season. I understand what you're saying, but everybody in the media and everything else wants to rush to this. And what Miami
100%.
is,
Everybody wants to rush to it. It's back every time we are in the top 5, for God's sakes.
but doing this, I just want to say, and we're going to wrap this up here, but doing this based on the fact of how Cristobal is recruited and we've developed our talent here in seasons that were a lot worse, 2 top 10 recruiting classes in bad seasons. Imagine what this can be in a season like this. It sets us up to be back. And if you win a national championship, if we win the
I
national
agree. I
championship,
agree.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I'll be upset if people say we're back because obviously the groundwork is there. We've shown, and it feels like the
Well,
commitment to Miami is there in a way from the coaching staff to not let this be a flash in the pan. I'll just say that.
this is a program that could definitely get on a roll again very easily. And again, yes, winning a national championship this year, possibly. I'm not saying that's happening,
Yeah, we're not
but
guaranteeing that.
then there would be Cam Ward goes off, does amazing things, but there's somebody going to be coming right behind him because they're going to want to be at this program, playing with the talent. Still, there's a lot of guys that can't leave. There are some great guys that are leaving, but I'm just saying, like, yes, it's very possible to get on a run and be back. Good, yes, but until it happens, at least 3 years in a row where we're in the top 10 consistently, like that's being back. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll agree with you there. But yeah, it is it's something that we got to deal with, and hopefully they shut that noise out. But like you said, if Cam Ward goes and wins the Heisman, we win the ACC, and we do that, the coolest thing about that is that's going to show not just quarterbacks but other players, what they can accomplish potentially at Miami, and with the development of our own players, the recruitment and the development of guys in Miami, you add those pieces, you supplement, you build a team, you build a program, not a team year to year. We've seen that with Florida State. We saw it with TCU. We can see how it's blown up so badly. So what Miami's doing in the recruiting trail is huge. I know we've kind of swung over to a different subject here. We'll wrap it up. I do want to say I give a shout out real quick to the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team getting wins in their first game against Stetson and then against Fairleigh Dickinson. I know not the biggest opponents in the world, but hey, Fairleigh Dickinson pulled off the second 16 seed beating a 1 seed in NCAA history when they beat Purdue a couple years ago. Miami took it to them, and a team that's loaded with talent that I'm very excited for. Scored the most points we've scored as a team since 1989, I believe is what it was. So what an opener. 114 points. I mean, great game. Team's loaded with talent. A lot of young freshman talent. 5-star, Jaleel Bethia looks great. So I'm excited. We'll get into basketball more in depth. I just want to give that shout out. Season got out on a strong note for both of them.
go Coach L, yeah, baby.
Exactly. Hopefully the Canes will get back on, last year's crappy taste out of the mouth after the Elite Eight and the Final Four run. This team the expectation is for Miami basketball to be in the tourney and make noise because that's what Coach L has built. And that's awesome. We would love to see it. It's kind of made Miami a little more basketball school over football school as of recent memory, which is not the norm. But hey, I'll take both. As always, guys, It's all about the U. Go Canes. Let's beat Georgia Tech. We'll see you guys soon.